Hi everyone, this is Kavya from Edureka. Welcome to today's session on how to use GitHub. Before we begin, I'm going to brief you all about the agenda in today's session. So firstly, we will understand why we need GitHub and what it really is. Then we will learn to create our very own first repository. We will also understand what branches are and how to create them. Then we will further discuss a few basic GitHub operations, the first one being the commit operation, followed by the pull operation. Finally, we will end the session with a case study on how Microsoft uses GitHub. I hope you all are clear about what we will be addressing today. Now let's move on to the first part of today's session, the need for GitHub. It is extremely important for software developers to work on a web-based platform to share their projects and collaborate with other developers. This platform must be a version control system, that is, it must enable multiple people to simultaneously work on a single project. Each person edits his or her own copy of the files and chooses when to share those changes with the rest of the team. This application must also be capable of hosting millions of programmers and hobbyists that download and evaluate each other's work. GitHub is one such platform of choice for developers that can host multiple programmers and review their code. GitHub has several competitors. For instance, GitLab. GitLab is an open source web interface and source control platform based on Git, whereas Microsoft Team Foundation Server is an enterprise-grade server for teams to share code, track work, and ship software for any language, all in a single package. Bitbucket, on the other hand, stores all of your Git and mercurial source code in one place with unlimited private repositories. So what really makes GitHub so powerful and popular among developers? GitHub is an open source platform, and the community is really what fuels it. Moreover, GitHub is the platform of choice for developers from various large corporations too. Microsoft is number one contributor to the system. But there are also Google, SAP, Airbnb, IBM, PayPal, and many others. Exposure and insight that you can get on GitHub are simply unmatched by any other platform. Here you can discover code written by others, learn from it, and even use it for your own projects. Versions control on GitHub works very much like Microsoft Office or Google Drive. It simply tracks all the changes made to your code and who makes them. You can always review the detailed change log that neatly hosts all of the relevant information. Using GitHub eliminates the need for complex corporate security solution because everything is on cloud. The platform protects code branches, verifies commit signing, and controls access. Now that we know why we need GitHub, let us understand what is GitHub. GitHub is a Git repository hosting service that provides a web-based graphical interface with many features. A repository is usually used to organize a single project. Repositories can contain folders, files, images, videos, spreadsheets, anything your project needs. Let's say, for example, a team wants to work on a particular project. Here they can simultaneously write and update their code to a central repository which is present on GitHub. So GitHub is a highly used software that is typically used for version control. It is helpful when more than just say one person is working on a project. For example, a software development team wants to build a website and everyone has to update their codes simultaneously while working on this project. In this case, GitHub helps them to build a centralized repository where everyone can upload, edit, and manage the code files. Most software projects have a bug tracker of some kind. GitHub's tracker is called Issues and has its very own section in every repository. Issues basically are a great way to keep track of tasks, enhancements, and bugs for your project. Moving on, people often get confused between the terms Git and GitHub. Now let me clearly explain the difference between them. Git is simply a version control system that lets you manage and track changes within your project, whereas GitHub is a cloud-based service that lets you manage Git repositories. So basically, Git is the tool and GitHub is the service. Now that we know the difference between Git and GitHub, let us move on and understand how these two work hand in hand. We already know that Git is a version control tool that will allow you to perform all kinds of operations to fetch data from the central server or push data to it. Whereas GitHub is a code hosting platform for version control collaboration. GitHub is basically a company that allows you to host a central repository in a remote server. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with the demonstration on how to use GitHub. So for this demonstration, we're working on the website version of GitHub. There's another version of GitHub that is the desktop version, which you can download it to your personal computer. So we're simply going to search for GitHub in our search engine. The first link will lead you to the official website of GitHub. So I'm going to click on that. So this will redirect me to the main homepage of GitHub. As you can see, there is a search GitHub option. There are also two buttons that says sign in and sign up. If you're new to GitHub, you can simply enter in your credentials, that is a username, email, password, and sign up for GitHub. But if you already have an account like I do, I'm simply going to click on the sign in button and it'll redirect me to a page where I have to enter the credentials, that is my email address and password. I'm going to do that now and I'm going to click on the sign in button. Now, this is the main page of my account. As you can see, I have no repositories. It's all new, it's all fresh. But if you're not new to GitHub, you can view all of your repositories on the left-hand corner. Now, before we move on, I'm going to explain you all the features that are present within GitHub. So you can see a search bar here. So the search bar will allow you to look for profiles, certain keywords, look for different kinds of projects that are available on GitHub. All of those can be done using this bar here. And you can see 4 options next to the bar that says pull requests, issues, marketplace, explore. Pull requests we'll learn later on in this session, but the issues and marketplace we won't be discussing in this video for now. The explore button, on the other hand, is an extremely important and interesting button. So once I click on that, it'll redirect me to a page with some activities that are going on around in GitHub. You can see here they're trending repositories, they're trending developers. Basically, this is a feed that will allow you to interact with developers and other people, collaborators from all around the world, basically. In Instagram too, you have an explore button, which will allow you to interact with different people from all around the world. So the same concept is implied in the GitHub explore button too. So you can explore topics, you can explore trending repositories, developers. Basically, it's an interaction with other people from different parts of the world. So I hope that's clear. Now, the most important part of the session are the 3 buttons that are available in the right-hand corner of the navigation bar. So you can see there's a bell icon, there's a plus icon, there's a pixelated icon on the right-hand corner. So the bell icon allows you to read notifications of your activities that occur in GitHub. So that's what it really is. You can see the inbox will allow you to view all of the notifications. You can also view the unread notifications by clicking on this unread button. As of now, I don't have any notifications, so there's nothing available. You can also group these notifications by the date or repository by clicking on this group by button here. You can also view your saved notifications by clicking on here. And the done button, on the other hand, will let you mark all of your notifications that you're done with, your previous notifications. So these are the 3 important buttons you'll have to know in this bell icon. And the filters are not necessary as of now, so I'm not going to discuss that. This button, on the other hand, will allow you to manage your notification settings and your subscriptions too. So that's all for this bell icon. The next important button is this plus icon. As you can see, there are 5 drop-down options that appear here. The first one being new repository, followed by import repository, new gist, new organization, new project. So new repository we've already discussed previously in this session. A repository is a place where you create your files for your project. It's basically a storage space, right? So your repository can directly interact with your Git, right? So the new repository option will allow you to make files, a repository to your GitHub account, right? The Git, on the other hand, the tool that which we use to make local repositories in our personal computer, can be directly pushed on. The local repositories can directly be pushed onto your GitHub account. So that's what the new repository button allows you to do so. But the new project, on the other hand, is a place to track issues, features, and other tasks that are related to the code within the repository. You can also connect with the DevOps build and deploy process, assign people to tasks, and so on by using this button. That is the new project button. So the difference between the new repository button and the new project button is that projects in GitHub are only a part of GitHub, but not Git. But the new repository option is a part of GitHub and Git. So that's the main difference between new repository and new project. I hope that's clear. So the next button will drop me down some interactions that I can make with my profile. So if I click on this your profile option, it will redirect me to a page where I can edit my profile. I can really create my identity using this page. So here, if I click the edit profile, I can add a bio about myself. I can add the company in which I'm working in, the location at where I am, the website, Twitter username, etc. All of that I can add here, all of the information about myself. I can also view the repositories I'm working on currently, or the repositories I've worked in the past, projects that I'm working on, the packages, and the entire contributions I've been making on GitHub from the last year. So basically, it allows me to build an identity, or it'll help me build my profile on GitHub. So I hope that's clear. Now, if I click on this button and if I want to sign out from a profile, I can simply scroll down and click on the sign out button here, and this will sign me out of my account. So that's all for getting started with GitHub. These are the basics on what GitHub is and what each of the button and options really do. Now, if I want to move back to the main page of my GitHub profile, I can simply click on this 𝐶𝐞 that's GitHub's logo. So I'm just going to click on this 𝐶𝐞 logo, and here I'm back to my main page. Now, before we move on and work on the different operations and options within GitHub and learn different things about GitHub, I'm going to give you a brief overview on how to download the desktop version of GitHub. So I'm simply going to search for GitHub desktop on my search engine, and I'm going to click on the first link that's available on this page. Now I can simply click on this button that says download for Windows 64-bit. That's compatible to my current version of my personal computer. If you have a Mac, you can simply click on the Mac version and download it to your desktop. But as I've already mentioned previously that we're going to work on the website version, so I'm going to simply switch back to this. Now let's quickly move on to the next part of the session. Create a repository. So firstly, let us understand what a repository is. It is simply a storage space for the correct project that you're working on. GitHub is a very popular central repository that allows you to share your files, whereas Git allows you to create local repositories that are present on the system you are working on. So you can basically push your local repository into GitHub and share it with other collaborators via the central one. Now that we know what a repository is and how it works, let's go on to the demonstration part and create our first repository. So you can do this in two ways. Either you can click on your create repository button that is present on the left side, or you can, as I've already mentioned in the previous part of the session, you can click on to this plus icon and you can click on the new repository option. So this will redirect you to a page that says create a new repository. You can add your repository name. I'm going to name my repository as Edureka, and it's available. All of your repository names must be unique from one another to identify them easily. You can also add a description, which is optional. I'm just going to add the description. This is my first repository. And a description allows people or other collaborators to understand what your repository is all about. But as a good developer or a good programmer, you would definitely want to add a description and give an overview of what your repository is all about. There are two options now available that says private or public. Now you can choose your repository to either be public or private. So the private one lets you decide who can access your profile, whereas the public one lets anyone view and access your repository, but you can choose who can commit to it. That's the difference between public and private repository. I'm going to let my repository be public as of now. Now, if you scroll down, you can see that you can initialize your repository with three options. The first one being add a README file. The second one being add a Git ignore file. You can always choose add a README text file to your project, which often contains information about the project and other necessary details the user must be aware of when he or she is accessing that particular project. Now, I want a README file for my repository, so I'm going to click on this button here. That's going to check it. The next option is add a .git ignore file. So this file will let you ignore a list of files when the user is pushing files to GitHub. That's what this option really does, but I'm going to let this be unchecked for now. For your repository to truly be open source, you will need to license it, so others are free to use, change, and distribute the software. You can simply click on choose a license option and pick the required license for your project. There are several licenses like MIT, GPL, Apache License 2.0, BSD, etc. But for this repository, we don't really need a license, so I'm going to untick this too. And now you can see there's a piece of information that says this will set master as the default branch, but I'm going to ignore this for now. I'm going to explain about branches later on in this session. So this is all you have to do to create your first new repository. You add a name, you choose a description, you add an optional description, you let your repository be either public or private, and you initialize your repository with either of these three options. And I'm simply going to click on my create repository option. Now this will redirect me to a page with all the information and the files that are currently present in my repository. You can see here my repository name is present here with the optional description that I gave, and the number of files. Currently we have only just one file, that's the readme text file, and that's present here. So this is all we have. Congratulations, you just created your first repository. Now you can see there are some options that says issues, pull requests, actions, projects, wiki, security, etc. We don't have to really talk about all of these right now. We will just learn about one option that says code here. So this is really important. If you click on this button, you can see that there's a link that is available here, an HTTPS link. So if you copy this link and paste it on your Git terminal that's present on your computer, you can download this entire project directly to your local system. So that's what the link is for. I hope that's clear. And the next option that says open with GitHub desktop will allow you to open this entire repository in your GitHub desktop version. And you can also, the last option that says download zip will allow you to download this entire repository in the form of zip files. So all of your project files will be within that zip file. So that's all you have to really know about your repository. And I'm going to click on the README text file that's available. It will take me to another page with some extra information about that file. You can see currently we have 2 lines and the memory space that is allocated to this file. So we currently have 2 lines, that is Edureka, and this is my first repository. And you can also see the number of contributors to this project. That is just one, that's just me for now. And you can view the history of the commits or the changes that have been performed in your file. So we'll come back to that part later on this session, but you can move back to your main page of this repository by clicking on the name button here. So Edureka is the name of my repository, so I'm going to click on that. So now I'm back to the main page of my repository. Before we learn how to create our first branch, let us understand what branches are. Branches allow you to work on other features that can be included and merged with the master branch if required. So what is the master branch? The master branch is the main branch where your project resides on. So all of the changes, all of the activities that you do with your main project lies or is on your default branch that is named as the master branch. So what really GitHub allows you to do is it allows you to create additional branches. So on these additional branches, you can work on the other features or you can experiment with your project. And if you're happy with this, you can simply merge these features to your main branch, that is your master branch. This is what branches are really for. So they simply allow you to work on other features. That's what branches are. So let's move on to the demonstration part and look at how we can create our own branches. So now if you look on the left corner, you can see a button that says master. So currently we're on the master branch, and there's only one branch, and the master branch, as I've already mentioned, is the default branch. So when you create a repository, you're automatically creating a master branch. So this is where your project will be residing on. And now if you want to create another branch, say let's name this branch 1 branch. So this is what I want to name my additional branch. I'm simply going to name it and I'm going to click on the enter button. So it will redirect me to a page. So this is the exact replica of your master branch. And you can work on this branch. You can work on any other feature, or you can add something, you can remove something, you can really experiment on this branch. And if you're happy with this, you can merge back this feature or the experimentation that you've been working on to your master branch, right? So you can see there's a readme text file. It's exactly the same. There's the name, of your repository, the description of the repository. You can click on the README text file and everything's the absolute same. You can quickly switch back to the main page. But the only difference is that you're currently on a branch named branch1 branch. You're not on your master branch. Now, if you want to switch back to your master branch and work on it, you can click on this button and you'll find the master here. You can click on that and it will take you back to your master branch. Here you can work on your project. So there are currently 2 branches. You can see that, and everything's normal. Everything looks simple. That's all for branches. It's really easy. I hope it's clear. So you can look for branches here on this bar here that's present here. You can also create new ones in the same option. So that's all for branches. Let's move on to the next part of the session. Make a commit. Now, what are commits? Commits simply record changes to one or more files in your branches. So basically, they save the changes that you're making in your project. Git always assigns each commit a unique identification, which is called SHA or hash, that identifies the specific changes. So for any changes are made to your project files, you can simply go back and look at the version history or the history of each commit you've performed on your project files. So that's what really commits are all about. It's extremely easy. Let's go ahead and make our first commit. Now I'm going to switch to my branch1 branch and I'm going to make my first commit. I'm going to click on my README text file. That's the only file currently in our repository. So we'll make the change in the README text file. There are 3 really important icons that are present in the right corner, as you can see. The first one is a PC icon that says open this file in GitHub desktop. So if you click on this file, this entire file will open in your GitHub desktop version. The next one, that is the pencil icon, will allow me to edit this particular file. That is my README text file. And the third icon is a bin icon, which will allow me to delete this file. Now, what we'll be working on is the pencil icon. That's the edit this file option. I'm going to click on this and I can simply view a space or a file that will allow me to make changes to my README text file. I'm going to add another line here that says this is my first commit. This is what I want to add to my README text file. And if I want to preview the changes, I'm going to click on this preview changes button. You can see that this is my first repository. This is my first commit. This is my first commit is the additional piece of information that we'll be adding to my README text file. And it's highlighted in blue, so we know that that's the additional information. I'm happy with this change. I'm going to switch back to my edit file. I'm going to scroll down. And if I want to add a description about the change that I'm performing to my file, I can do that. A good programmer would always add a description to the change that he's making to the project file. So other collaborators, when they view the commit or they view the change, they can read the extended description and understand what the change is about. So that's a good habit that you must follow. But as of now, we're not going to do that. So I'm going to leave this blank. As you can see, there are 2 radio buttons that are currently available. The first one says commit directly to the branch1 branch. This will allow me to make the change or save or make the commit directly to my branch1 branch only. So the change that I'm making currently is only implemented to my branch1 branch. The second option allows me to create a new branch for this particular commit and start a pull request. We're not going to talk much about this option right now, but the first option is extremely important. So we'll let this be stuck on to the option that says commit directly to the branch1 branch. And I'm going to click on the commit changes options. And this will simply implement the entire change to the file. You can see that the change is implemented. The additional piece of line that says this is my first commit is added to my README text file. Now, the interesting part is if I switch to my master branch, the change is not implemented in my master branch. So the change is only currently present in my branch1 branch. And now if I want to view the history of the changes that I've made, I've already mentioned in the previous part of the session that the history button will allow me to do so. So I'm going to click on this history button and you can see that I made my first commit 23 minutes ago and I made my new commit 41 seconds ago. And there is also a hash number, unique hash identification number that allows me to distinguish between both of these changes. So all of my commits that I'll be making on this branch will be available here. So that's the main point of a version control system, isn't it? understanding and keeping a record of all the changes that we're performing in our files and our projects. So gives full justice to the word version control. So that is what GitHub is all about. Now that we learned how to make our first commit, let's move on to the next part of the session. Open and merge pull requests. So what are pull requests? Pull requests let you tell other developers about changes you've pushed to branch in a repository on GitHub. So once a pull request is open, you can acknowledge and review the changes with collaborators and add follow-up commits, after which your changes are merged into the base branch. So there are two ways to create a pull request. The first one being pull request from a forked repository, and the second one being pull request from a branch within a repository. Currently in this demo, we will work on the second one, that is pull request from a branch within a repository. Now I'm simply going to switch to my demo part. Okay, now currently I'm on my master branch. I'm going to click on this pull request option that's here. Now it says branch 1 has had recent pushes 3 minutes ago, compare and pull request. I'm not going to click on that. I'm going to simply click on the new pull request option here. So this will allow me to compare the changes. There's a base branch and a compare branch. The base branch is the master branch, and the compare branch, I will compare my master branch to my branch 1 branch. So this notification says that the merge between the branch 1 branch and master branch is definitely possible. So it's a green signal. So if I scroll down, I can view the difference between both the branches. So the left hand side indicates the information that is present on the master branch, and the right hand indicates the information that is present in my branch 1 branch. Plus sign indicates the additional information that is present in my branch 1 branch. I'm happy with this. So I'm simply going to scroll up and create the pull request. I'm going to click on that. I can also leave a comment and I can preview the change. That's not necessary for now. So I'm going to go ahead and create the pull request. Now this will redirect me to a page. So this page says that the pull request has been opened. And now I can choose to merge this pull request. That is, I can merge the branch 1 branch to my master branch. So it says this branch has no conflicts with the base branch. Merging can be performed automatically. And that's good news, right? So I'm going to click on merge pull request, and I'm going to confirm my merge, update my readme text file. I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to confirm it. Now it says pull request successfully merged and closed. You're all set. The branch 1 branch can be safely deleted. I'm not going to delete the branch. I'm going to compare both of the branches and see if my master branch is exactly the same as my branch 1 branch. So I'm going to click on this Edureka. I'm going to go to my main page of my repository. So my master branch has the additional piece of information that says this is my first commit. Now if I switch to my branch 1 branch, it has the exact piece of information. So the information that was present in my branch 1 branch has been successfully implemented to my master branch. So that's all for the pull request part 2. We've reached the end of the demonstration part. Now let's quickly look at the case study of how Microsoft implemented GitHub. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Microsoft. Microsoft Corporation is an American multinational technology company. It develops, manufactures, licenses, supports, and sells different computer software, consumer electronics, personal computers, and other related services. So initially, Microsoft was against the use of the open source because they held very tightly to the internet protocol. They were completely hesitant to adapt to this new concept of sharing code to the entire world. But in 2010, they rethought this entire scenario, and now Microsoft is one of the biggest contributors to open source. Today, about 2,000 to 25,000 Microsoft engineers maintain TypeScript, .NET, Windows Terminal, DARP, Helm, and more than 1,000 other open source projects. So first what they did was they released new processes in measured containment. But later on, they released only licensed software. So here, developers can learn from the company's source code, but they couldn't really build on it. Eventually, the stigma died, and now even closed code like .NET is open source under an MIT license. Teams realize that they need to accept contributions to get feedback and learn from other developers. To organize and understand this approach, Microsoft created their Open Source Programs Office, which enables distribution and centralization of knowledge. So the OSPO provides the resources and maintainers to manage thousands of repositories and contributors effectively on GitHub. Even though Microsoft invests in its tools, they expect other individuals and organizations to lead the way. Microsoft believes that GitHub's value isn't in any one feature, but its entire community. GitHub is the place to collaborate, it's where everyone is, and where most of the entire world's open source is already happening. It's not just a feature, but the whole thing. With this, we have reached the end of today's session. Hope all of you have had a great time learning about how to use GitHub. Until next time, thank you.